Whistle. During a high school basketball game, star athlete Mason Horse Raymore is haunted by visions of a burned man. While showering in the locker room, the burned man appears and causes him to burst into flames and dies in front of his friends. 6 months later, transfer student Chris Willett inherits Mason's old locker and finds a skull-shaped whistle. She is provoked by Mason's former teammate Dean after she inherits Mason's locker, and she knees him in the groin to defend herself. She, along with Dean, are sent to detention by Mr. Craven, along with her cousin Rel, Dean's girlfriend Grace, and Ellie. During detention, Chris asks Mr. Craven about the whistle and finds some writing on it. Ellie looks up the translation that apparently says, "summons the dead." Mr. Craven confiscates the whistle and looks up other Aztec whistles that are worth tens of thousands of dollars. He decides to sell it, but first blows it to see if it works, while Rel later steals it back after sneaking back to get his comic that he accidentally left behind. Later that night, Mr. Craven is killed by a grotesque apparition of himself that causes him to age and die. Later, while at a pool outside Grace's house, Dean dares Grace into blowing the whistle, and its sound causes them to be haunted by their own apparitions. The next morning, the group learn about Mr. Craven's death and how he died from stage 4 lung cancer. Chris and Ellie later learn from Mason's occult-collecting grandmother, Ivy, that the whistle is an Aztec death whistle, and that it is actually inscribed with the phrase, "summons your death." Anyone who hears it becomes stalked and is eventually killed by a manifestation of their destined demise. While at a Halloween-themed festival, Grace is chased around by an elderly lady. She strikes the lady on the head with a shovel and ends up with the same injury on her head. Grace attempts to escape from the ghostly apparition while Chris and Ellie arrive and try to help her. While Dean tries to find Grace after hearing the commotion during a phone call and finds her dead body after she rapidly aged into an old woman. Afterwards, Chris and Ellie try to explain to Dean and Rel about the whistle and how it was cursed and caused Grace's death. But Dean doesn't buy it and blames Chris as all this strange stuff started happening after she moved to their town. But Rel defends her and instead blames Dean as he was the one that made Grace blow the whistle into the first place. After he returns home, Dean sees a ghostly apparition of himself that is badly injured and decides to stay isolated in his room. While Chris, Ellie, and Rel visit Ivy on her deathbed, she reveals that the curse can be avoided by marking another person with their blood and transferring it to them. While Dean mourns Grace's death and is shown fumbling with a ring that he mostly likely planned to propose to her with, until he sees a news segment on TV talking about her death and how her body could not be identified due to how old she looked. Dean, heartbroken, turns off the TV, but sees the ghostly apparition after it opened his door and blocks it with his dresser. His dad tries to open the door, while Dean frantically tells him not to, but a mysterious force grotesquely tears his body apart. His parents watch in horror as Dean is shown with a broken body and falls to the ground dead, while Rel abducts a violent youth pastor, Noah, at gunpoint and takes him to a warehouse and ties him to a chair. Rel attempts to mark him with his blood as Noah confesses to killing a young boy by giving him drugs that he overdosed on. But Chris and Ellie arrive and intervene, refusing to sacrifice someone else. Rel relents, and thanks to what he said, Chris realizes that they can kill themselves and be revived to avoid being killed by their demonic apparitions. But Rel is soon attacked by his apparition, which tears him apart like a junkyard shredder. Chris and Ellie attempt to save him, but he lets himself go to spare them and dies. Chris and Ellie decide to try briefly dying and being revived. Ellie drowns Chris in a tub of ice water and tries to resuscitate her, but her ghostly apparition attacks and attempts to kill her. While Chris, hearing Ellie's voice, comes back to life and tries to help Ellie before being held at gunpoint by Noah. Noah, having escaped, arrives and confronts them, but after touching Ellie's blood, the curse inadvertently transfers to him, and he tries to kill his ghostly apparition, only to injure himself repeatedly, as the injuries were also inflicted onto him. As a result, he is killed by his own apparition, while Ellie regains consciousness and is comforted by Chris. 3 months later, Chris and Ellie are now a couple and believe the curse has ended. However, unbeknownst to them, a new student opens their own locker and mysteriously discovers the whistle inside. The new student is to play a song on her violin during a student assembly, but instead she pulls out the whistle. Chris and Ellie, shocked, try to stop her from blowing the whistle. But it is too late, and the entire audience covers their ears as she plays the whistle, with the curse returning once again.